Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, think about this. What's the most exhausting job title today? Maybe CEO, astronaut, full-time parent. I'd argue it's something way sneakier, like the chief authenticity officer of you.
Yeah, it sounds great on paper, doesn't it? Be yourself. You know, freedom from the old rules, the suits, the 9-to-5 grind. But somehow chasing that authenticity feels less like freedom and more like this incredibly draining performance constantly.
It really is the big paradox now. We're kind of living in this age of compulsory authenticity. You don't just exist. You have to be uniquely you, aesthetically you, optimized you. And you see the signs everywhere, right? Like curating vulnerability, making sure your joy looks just right, even branding your burnout.
Exactly, and that's the psychological mess we're wading into. We're always sort of chasing this online version of ourselves we've already created. So the big question when you're scrolling back through your own stuff is that really me? Or is it, the character I've kind of hired myself to play?
And if we try looking at this through a psychological lens, maybe a Freudian one, it gets pretty unsettling. What if being yourself is actually the most demanding, maybe the most sophisticated kind of conformity we've ever invented? The core idea we're exploring is this. Has the ego, the part managing our self-image, basically outsourced its superego?
Yeah.
That inner critic, the guilt tripper, outsourced it straight to Instagram or TikTok or wherever.
Yeah, the rules didn't just disappear. They just got internalized, digitized. It's not about wearing the wrong tie anymore. Now the threat is like becoming algorithmically irrelevant because you have the wrong identity.
Okay, let's unpack that difference. Old conformity versus this new kind, because that seems key. Back then, say the 50s, the rules were pretty clear. You knew the dress code, what to talk about, the ambitions you were supposed to have. Fitting in was external.
Exactly right. You conform to the group. But today, the demand is internal. Be authentic, and bam, suddenly you're in this hall of mirrors. Which self am I today? The confident one, the anxious one, the empire builder, the slow-living guru. It's endless.
And that modern superego, it's become this internal content strategist. It's not telling you how to behave exactly, but how to feel, or at least what feelings to share. It's policing your inner world for stuff that'll, perform well online.
Totally. It's deciding what's okay for public viewing. It's not don't swear. It's more like, okay, swear, but make it a relatable rant about hustle culture and maybe offer a solution in the next slide.
Yeah.
The underlying command is always there. Be real, but please, not too real. Be relatable, definitely, but make sure your struggles are kind of inspirational.
You see this perfected in that whole ritual of vulnerability as content. We all know that post. The carefully staged messiness. Maybe you're on the sofa, laptop nearby, sweatpants on point, maybe a single tear emoji.
Oh yeah, and it works. Engagement shoots up. So brave. Comments roll in. You feel connected, sort of. But let's get real. Psychoanalytically speaking, you didn't post that at 3 a.m. when things were actually falling apart and messy. No, you posted it at like 11:17 a.m. After trying out 3 captions, cropping out the laundry pile, making sure the lighting gave you that perfect dewy-eyed look, not actual distress.
Right. It wasn't a real moment of breakdown. It was a scheduled piece of content. It's vulnerability, yeah, but optimized for clicks. And that's the scary feedback loop, isn't it? Your brand learns that showing imperfection is the new perfect. You didn't escape conformity. You just got a new, shinier manual for how to be human online.
Which sets us up perfectly for the why. Why do we build this curated identity? We think of the personal brand as like a tool for success, but from a psychoanalytic view, it looks much more like a really complex defense mechanism. Remember Freud's classic cases? People developing physical symptoms, paralysis, phobias to avoid facing some unbearable truth? Okay. So instead of a paralyzed offer, today we develop a brand, a super coherent, marketable, easily digestible version of ourselves. And the point is to protect us from what? The actual chaos inside, the fear of being irrelevant.
Exactly. It's identity curation as repression. We build this amazing online fortress to keep out all the messy bits, the incoherent thoughts, the laziness, the irrational anger, stuff that just doesn't perform well. We take our deep, often unconscious needs and wants and instantly translate them into strategic content.
Give us some examples of those translations, because I think that's where people might go, oh, wait, what does that inner screen sound like once it's been through the Instagram filter?
Okay, so instead of thinking, oh my God, I'm terrified my skills are outdated and I'm going to be totally left behind, you post, excited to be niching down to serve my ideal client with high-value evergreen content.
Wow, okay. Or instead of the raw feeling, I just really need some love and validation right now.
You post, so grateful for this community, focused on building authentic engagement and connection today. It's like the brand becomes the socially acceptable, cleaned-up way to yell, "See me, tell me I matter, love me," without actually having to admit you're yelling.
Pretty much. It masks the desperation.
But what's the psychological cost here? If the brand is killing it, does that mean the person behind it is actually doing okay, getting healthier?
Rarely. Often, in analysis, you find the opposite. The louder the symptom meaning, the more successful or compelling the brand, the empowerment content, the deeper the wound it might be covering up, that perfect living my best life feed. It could be masking crippling anxiety or financial terror. The brand's success isn't healing. It often means the inadequacy or loneliness is just being managed very, very effectively. The brand is the symptom.
That's genuinely unsettling. Okay, let's go deeper. How are these classic Freudian defense mechanisms showing up online, like right now?
Yeah.
Sublimation first. I see those slow living posts all the time. The perfect desk, the ceramic mug, the single plant, the sunlight just so. It feels like a performance of calm.
It absolutely is. Sublimation, classically, is about channeling unacceptable urges, maybe aggression, maybe panic, into something socially acceptable, like art or intense work. Today, we channel our inner chaos, our fear, our anxiety into aesthetics, into wellness, into content creation.
So staging that perfect desk photo isn't really about being peaceful. It's about demonstrating total control over the chaos.
Precisely. You're sublimating your anxiety into mindful productivity. Instead of feeling I'm falling apart, you post embracing the messy middle, and then you spend an hour editing the photo to make sure that messy middle looks absolutely flawless.
Okay, got it. What about projection? Seeing our own unwanted stuff in other people, that seems pretty big online too.
Oh, projection basically fuels the comments section. It's when you write that big post saying, "Ooh, I can't believe how shallow people are just chasing likes. True artists create for the art." Meanwhile, who's refreshing their analytics every 10 minutes, terrified their engagement is dipping.
The person who wrote the post, of course. They were projecting their own desperate need for validation onto those shallow people. Makes them feel superior, right? Above it all.
It's the ultimate psychological Instagram filter. Hides your own flaws, sharpens everyone else's perceived neediness, and then there's reaction formation, acting the opposite of how you truly feel.
My mind immediately goes to, like, the influencer posting non-stop aggressive body positivity content.
That's a perfect digital example. Often, they're not truly body positive, they're body defensive. The performance is there to mask a really deep insecurity. Or think about the entrepreneur who makes a huge deal about celebrating failures and branding mistakes as resilience. Why? Because they're secretly terrified of being seen as incompetent. The louder the performance, the more likely the opposite feeling is lurking underneath.
Okay, let's shift to something even deeper in psychoanalysis. Libido. Not just sex drive, right? But that raw life force. Creative energy, connection drive. Where's all that energy going in the age of the brand?
It gets funneled. Big time. It used to maybe pour into messy art projects or complicated relationships or just expansion. Now, so much of it goes into crafting the perfect bio, the viral video hook, the relatable struggle tweet, into optimizing the brand machine.
Have we basically eroticized the algorithm? Is that what's happening?
It really looks that way sometimes. We get a thrill from watching the growth graphs climb. The dopamine hit from a post going viral feels like, well, a climax. Reaching 10K followers is a major turn on. We end up desiring the metrics, the likes, the shares, the engagement rate, maybe even more than we desire genuine, messy connection with the actual humans behind the screens. We don't necessarily want to be known, we want to be successfully consumed.
And that links straight into this modern craving for narcissistic supply, doesn't it? Likes, comments, follower counts. They stop being just vanity metrics, they become proof you exist.
Absolutely. When that supply dips, the panic isn't just ego. It feels existential. It's the fear of disappearing. If the algorithm isn't boosting you, if the numbers aren't going up, do you still matter? Do you even exist? The brand whispers that your existence is conditional on being seen.
Which connects to that kind of creepy feeling you sometimes get scrolling. That feeling Freud called das Unheimliche, the uncanny.
Yes, the uncanny. That weird, unsettling shiver when something familiar suddenly feels alien. Like when you're scrolling your own perfectly curated feed, looking at your own face in posts, reading words you wrote, or maybe slightly tweaked for effect, and you have that flicker of, wait, is that really me, or is that the brand's face?
The brand promised to make us coherent, to give us a solid identity. But by chopping ourselves up into optimized little content pieces, maybe it actually delivers estrangement, alienation from our actual selves.
It can, yeah. You sacrifice so much of the whole messy person to feed the brand machine that you start to wonder what's actually left underneath it all.
And if we trace this right back, maybe the personal brand isn't even that new. Maybe it's just a really polished version of a childhood survival strategy, like that authentic voice you worked so hard to find. Is it actually just the voice you learned you had to use to get mom or dad's approval, or to avoid getting into trouble?
Oof, yeah, that's a core idea. The brand as a kind of ghost-written autobiography rooted in how we learn to navigate our earliest relationships. Which brings us to repetition compulsion.
Right, the unconscious drive to repeat old patterns.
Exactly. We unconsciously recreate those early dynamics, seeking conditional approval, avoiding rejection, not necessarily to heal them, but because our nervous system thinks familiar equals safe, even if familiar was kind of painful. So you didn't just start a business, maybe you unconsciously recreated the emotional system of your childhood and just called it entrepreneurship.
So when I'm obsessively refreshing a post to see if it hit 100 likes, I'm basically doing the same thing as 5-year-old me running to show my parents a drawing, desperate for that good job. Just same kid, different stage, much better filters.
That's a powerful way to put it. And this connects to the whole idea of finding your niche. Strategically, it makes sense, but psychologically, could niching down sometimes be about building a boundary out of fear? We narrow our focus because we're afraid to show the whole self.
Afraid parts of us will get rejected. So we kind of amputate the bits that don't fit. The messy politics, the weird humor, the anger, the sadness, all the stuff that might not resonate with the target audience.
It's possible. The niche isn't always where you're strongest. Sometimes it's just the zone where you feel safest, least likely to be judged or rejected. It's the controlled space where you know exactly which version of you is acceptable currency.
So, okay. Where does this leave us? What we seem to be saying is the brand is like a cage we built ourselves thinking it was a stage. We're the architect, the warden, and the prisoner.
That's a stark way to put it, but yeah. And look, the goal isn't necessarily quit your brand tomorrow. For many people, that's just not realistic, financially or professionally. The goal might be more about achieving conscious conflict. Starting to see the bars of the cage, hearing that internal superego voice making demands, recognizing the brand for the symptom it might be.
So that's the invitation for you listening right now. A kind of practical psychoanalysis before you hit post. Just pause and ask yourself honestly, who am I actually talking to here? What part of myself am I packaging and selling? And maybe the toughest one. What part of me am I silencing right now to make this work?
Just notice when authenticity feels like a costume. Notice when vulnerability feels like a strategic move. That little pause, that space, that's where the real self might get a chance to breathe.
And maybe remember this, all those parts of you that don't quite fit the brand aesthetic, the bits that feel too dark, too strange, too quiet, maybe too loud, they aren't flaws to be fixed or hidden. They might just be the parts the algorithm hasn't figured out how to monetize yet. They're the parts that are actually authentically you.
You existed before this brand, and you'll exist after it.
The algorithm doesn't have dreams. You do. Those messy, weird, unmarketable dreams are still yours. So who are you when the camera is truly finally off? And maybe, are you a little bit afraid to find out? Something to think about. Catch you next time on The Deep Dive.